Mm-mm. All right. Hey, happy Friday. Mm, 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 mm. Uh, I meant to do things like warn people, maybe make an announcement now and again that I'm going live. But sometimes things don't work out that way. First, a sip of watered down, watered down apple cider for the working man. So I will not be offended if folks don't make it or make it at odd times. It is completely and utterly my fault. Okay. So you can see I've got the OSR. Here we go to Reddit again this week. I used to go to Reddit every week and look at stuff, and then kind of fell out of it. I don't know that I'm going to do this every week again. Go back to Reddit as usual. I'd prefer I get stuff from you folks to look at, but I don't get anything. No, nobody sends me anything. So I'm forced to take matters into my own hands. I have a poll. I have a poll that's running right now. So depending on when you end up watching this, and I don't know, folks, I should probably check the analytics. No, I probably don't want to check the analytics. I don't know how many folks watch these things after the fact. So there's some, if you're watching this sometime in the far flung future, then the poll's probably closed. However, given that today is, let's see, March 21st, 2025, for the moment, the poll is open. And the poll is about, what is it about? Community copies versus pay what you want for things. And I'm thinking specifically, my angle specifically for things that I do. But of course, you may not have experiences with the things that I do, but you have experiences with other creators, or you have experience with myself and other creators. I would imagine most folks would fall in that camp. And so here's what happens. I'm always looking for ways to support what I do, which costs money. At the time part, I'm fine with. Right? The money part of it, um, it's harder. It is what it is. Uh, but I always feel like, look, I have a Patreon and I have channel members, and I appreciate anyone who's ever patronized me for any amount of time or been a channel member for any amount of time. I just super appreciate it. I'm always just flattered that anybody would want to do that. What I'd really like to do, and I'm trying to, but it's kind of in fits and starts. I'm trying to get better and get more organized, but who knows how that's going to go. Really, what I'd like to do and what I've been trying to do, especially over the last, I don't know, few months, if you've noticed, maybe more, maybe we're talking 6 months. I don't know the exact time. I'm trying to, one, just be more active and trying to follow through and get things published, self-published, whatever, up on itch, up on things that I'm working on, trying to get them kind of out in the world, right? And the second thing I'll do is I'll take stuff and I'll put it out there, and some of it I just want to put out there, and there's other stuff where I like to think, I guess, going back to the kind of the patronage part of it, is really what I feel like is, look, if you guys want to support me, I'm all for it. I could use it. However, I would rather it not be like a charitable contribution. I would rather it be would be that you can get something in return, like, hey, you can support me and get this thing, whatever it is, right? And I've done a couple recently. I've done, we're working on the Joy of Hex maps, and I put together that what do they call it? To the Manor Born, which I threw out as a one pager, and I put out that just the other day, just recently. What did I put out? To the Manor Born, and what was the other one that I did? What did I do? What the heck have I been doing? Do I need to go to Itch and look at my own page to see what did I do? Hold on a minute. What the heck did I do? Um, it's probably not super important exactly what I did, but if I go to my page here, what did I do? Oh, let's see. Oh, the wilderness die. Right. So I did the wilderness die. Put out. I don't know where my brain is. Wilderness die. Put out. Um, I put out actions and consequences. which was another thing I did recently. Obviously, I have the bigger things that I've been working on, but I put these things out there in the world, and and there's kind of a not a I don't want to say a dual goal. Well, maybe there is a dual goal. I don't know. I'm just trying to be kind of real here, sort of. Maybe I should put this on the maybe it's more appropriate for the behind the screens channel, but I'm just throwing it out there, right? So one, I just want to share stuff, which is kind of what I do with the videos anyway, sharing stuff, having fun with that kind of thing. I would like to try to get more attention because I do feel like I'm doing good work, and you like to think, well, hey, you're doing good work. Don't you want to be kind of noticed? Yes, noticed. So I would like to see if I can get some more attention, see if I can grow the community, grow the channel, right, like that, and then. And I think that the third thing is obviously the kind of the support. So, folks who support me, which I appreciate, I try to return when I can. I'm still trying to figure out YouTube, for example, with channel members. I feel like for my scheduling and kind of how I operate, they don't give me, there's not a lot of ways that a lot of things for the stuff for channel members, the kind of things that really I can do for them is things like getting videos early or exclusive videos or streams, things like that, right? It's either exclusive content or it's sort of getting stuff early. Now I can do things like post images and stuff and flag it as channel members only. And I've done that for a few things, whatever. Sometimes when I do a working stream, like the other day, I'll take the working file for that stream and I'll because you guys are watching me go through it, but figure, hey, as a little bonus, if you want the actual screenshot, whatever, I'll do something like that. There's not a lot of options there. Patreon has a lot more options because there you can actually attach files and things. You can link it. They have integrations with things like Itch, and I think I don't know if Drive-Thru has a Patreon thing as well. But they have integrations so you can integrate. YouTube is sort of its own thing, kind of out there, and it's a little bit of a frustration I think I have with it. I don't know if other creators do, where it's kind of the community stuff. It's great for what it is, but it's also a little bit kind of half baked. It doesn't really fit in cleanly with the ecosystem. For example, if you're watching on a TV, then you have to get out your phone and you have to get to YouTube another way. You can't just on your TV go and see the community stuff. And I'm not even sure what you would do there. I don't want to look at community posts on my TV, but that is what it is. But I guess what I'm rambling on about is that, to the best of my abilities, I'd like to say, hey, support me, and then get something in return. Here, have something that hopefully you can use, or at least is inspirational in some way. If I had things, maybe I'll get around to having like stickers and things like that I could pass out to people. Maybe I will at some point. But that's kind of where this comes from, and there are a few ways of maybe. Yeah, three. I guess in the poll, which I think I started talking about, and I'm trying to really talk about. In the poll, I listed basically two ways other than kind of Patreon, or that would be the third way, right? To list things that I either want to just give away, more or less, or put out there and say, hey, if you'd like to support me, support me. And so we look at it and say, okay, in the poll, I'm kind of taking Patreon out of the picture. But if we wanted to talk about Patreon, you have something like Patreon or some other sort of subscribe to me site, aka like YouTube has with channel memberships, or Patreon. And I'm sure there's other ones. I guess Substack would be another option, that kind of thing. Hey, subscribe to me and you'll get these things. Now, I know that some folks don't necessarily want to, spread. I know it's a concern, which is just unfortunate. Bad apples spoil a thing for everybody, right? In the early days of the internet, people would have just sent their credit card information willy-nilly all over the web because we didn't think that it would end up in bad people's hands and they would try to empty our accounts. But now people are pretty wary of, hey, I'm in the Google ecosystem. I don't necessarily want to go into Patreon. I mean, part of the reason why Patreon, I think, is so popular is because it has this name for itself and people are already on Patreon. So if you go to another site, then it's there's this interesting, I think, dynamic of, well, I'm on Patreon. So if you go to, I don't know, Matreon, I'm probably not going to follow you over there because I have all my stuff on Patreon and I don't want to. Maybe I trust Patreon as a vendor, or they haven't done me wrong yet or whatever. So I'm going to stick with Patreon and good luck for you over on Patreon, but I'm not coming because I don't want to give yet another company my credit card information when I've already kind of got Patreon set up. And I know people feel that way about, Google. Well, I could do this, but I'm already on Google. And so I'm doing stuff on Google. Maybe I already do, YouTube, what is it, YouTube TV or Red or Plus, whatever they call it. Okay, I'm there. And so if you do a channel membership on YouTube, well, that's easy. But I don't want to go to, I don't want to go to Patreon. But anyway, so that's kind of one element, one method. But but the other part of it is if I share links, I don't know, I feel weird about it. I feel like this, and I'd love to hear folks what their opinions are. But I know that when I'm on social media and I'm getting people are sending out their Patreon links, I feel a little bit. I probably shouldn't because I'm also in the same boat. But I do feel a little bit like, oh gosh, they're kind of sending me over. Like they're marketing to me. They're trying to send me to their site to sign up, and I don't want to sign up. So I feel like there's always this resistance. And please tell me you can tell me if I'm mistaken, or maybe if I'm right on, or if you have another feeling to putting things on Patreon. I also think that the audience for Patreon, it's limited. If I put something, and this might be a problem, I'm not sure for other folks, if it's me or whatever, but I've mentioned this before. I feel like the community is kind of this big diaspora, and YouTube actually is where I think most people who are sort of engaged with me tend to find me. Some on my Discord, a few people on my forums, and of course there are patrons and folks who follow the Patreon. But I think if I were to take something and put it on Patreon, I don't think that many people it doesn't attract that many eyeballs. And like I said, I think you can sometimes with the Patreon part, there's almost this resistance because it's a Patreon link, because it reads to anybody. And I got into this, I was a long time ago now, some Facebook group, I posted something. I think I posted it free because at that point, I know Patreon is a thing now where you can follow, right? So you have a creator, you can follow them without becoming a patron. And so if you are a creator on Patreon, you can flag posts as being for basically anybody who's, I guess, I don't know, I forget if they call it different words or not, but basically you put it for anybody who's essentially following you, regardless of whether they're giving you money or not. You can have posts that lock to that versus to open world. But I think this was just something, I think this feature wasn't even out yet. And I think I just put it on Patreon because I was trying to say like, hey, look, I have this Patreon and here's something for free. Maybe check it out. And if you enjoy my stuff, maybe you'll want to subscribe. I think a lot of people do that, right? And somebody just started haranguing me because it was a Patreon link. And without even them, I think, they obviously did not follow the link to see, hey, this is something you don't have to, I don't remember, like, I don't think you had to log into Patreon. Like, it was just there. It was on Patreon. But the fact that it was at Patreon, I think rubs some folks the wrong way. And I will totally acknowledge that I feel like that's probably happened with me too, that I have gone on to Patreon or found a link or someone's posted a link to something and it goes to Patreon and I'm less likely to click on it because I feel like I'm being sent to the marketing site, which brings me, short story made extremely long, to these two ways of doing things that don't include sending somebody off to what's clearly a subscription site. And that is doing community copies on Itch or pay what you want, which can work on Itch or on Drive-Thru. So Drive-Thru and Itch are at least the main places I know to put TTRPG stuff. I know everyone's got their specific storefronts, or at least the big publishers, and some small publishers do as well. But in terms of kind of marketplaces for tabletop role playing stuff, there's basically there's Drive-Thru, there's Itch, and I guess Lulu would also be one. But I think Lulu's pretty. I think in terms of, and I don't know exactly, but I would imagine in terms of popularity that if you look at the sort of the big three, and I'm assuming those are the big three, right? Drive-Thru, Itch, and Lulu. It's probably in that order, and it's probably Drive-Thru way up here, Itch pretty significantly below it, and then Lulu probably pretty significantly below Itch. I think even for I would say, right, I would imagine someone could probably tell me if they're wrong or not, but for tabletop stuff. So I'm just concentrating. I don't have anything on Lulu yet. Maybe I'll once I get more into getting stuff finagled for print, I will probably look at Lulu for that, or at least as an option for that. But for the moment, I'm just itch and drive through are sort of the only things that I'm kind of paying attention to right now. Drive through, you don't have the ability to do a community copy thing. I wish they would do that. I know in itch it's not really. I kind of wish that itch would have it. Itch, it's weird from the creator, like to you as you visit a page and it says community copies. It's pretty clear, right? It's the setup on the creator side is a little bit weird because it's actually a reward which you can then title community copy, and you sort of set up like that. It's not. I wish it was something where it seems like it's popular enough that I kind of wish that they would just make it its own, like take it out of this weird, oh, you're kind of setting up a reward, but it's not really a reward. I don't know. It's like it's a weird sort of thing. Maybe they could even automate it kind of thing. But you can set up these community copies. And what the community copy is it's copies that are free. All right, free and clear. You can download it. But it's a limited number, though you can set that number to whatever you want. You can set it to 1,000 if you wanted to. I mean, I don't know if there's some kind of upper end of it, or you can set it to 1 if you want to. And you can, what you can do is you have presumably, obviously it wouldn't make sense if it was already free, but you have some price for your product, and then you can set up these community copies through the weird method that you set them up. And so you can say, okay, I've got 100 of them for free, and say the rest of them are a buck. And what I didn't come up with this, and a fair amount of creators I see around will do some kind of like what would you call it? Like a buy one community one, where they'll say, hey, if you buy one, then I'll set one up for the community. And so what I'll do is that when someone throws me a dollar or two on one of the ones that I've set up for community copies, and I think I've pretty much set them all up for community copies, or most of them. I should probably go back and check, because the pay what you want ones don't have a community copy thing, obviously. You can, so I'll go through and say, oh, someone threw $1 for the Wilderness Die. So then I'll go and I'll put a community copy up, and that works. Drive-through doesn't have that option. So for them, it's just the pay what you want, which is, I think most people are familiar with. You get that box. Oh, it's, we suggested price of $2.99, but you can kind of put in what you want, or zero. And if I'd had the time, and I think the space to have written more in my poll question on YouTube, I probably would have gotten into it more. And I was hoping that people would vote and also comment like I asked for, but I've had a few people vote and nobody comment yet. But I do think there's some interesting differences in those two approaches to essentially releasing free copies of your game, right? Obviously, community copies are limited. So that is one driver. Right? Pay what you want, you can pay whatever. I know as a user, when I go and I go to itch and I see something that has a cost and I see community copies, I'm less likely to just flippantly grab one. I don't know if that's true for other people. And that's part of the reason why I put the poll up, is I kind of wanted to hear from other folks. When I go and I look at something on itch, maybe we could go look at one that's not me, really. I don't know. I probably can't. Probably won't be able to find one now that I'm actually looking to find one. Let's see. World. I don't know if this has one or not. Okay, it doesn't. World Wizard. I've heard really good things about World Wizard, by the way, but it doesn't fit my purposes for this. Does this have one? It doesn't. Am I gonna have to go to one of my own? All right, let me just do that too. We'll just go to which one to do? Yeah, I guess I'll just go to the Wilderness Die. Copy. I'm kind of curious actually if it's here. Okay, here it's right there. Okay. So right now I get all copies claimed, because they're all copies claimed, right? Now, if I were to see a couple of copies here, me as a user, I would pause before grabbing one, presuming that, okay, I can spend the buck to do it, because I guess the psychology of it, I think, is that there might be someone who wants it more than me and can afford it less than me. So I don't want to just grab one to grab one. And also, as an aside, if I know that, well, hey, if I spend a buck, I'm actually adding one for somebody who's needed, I feel like I'm more likely to spend the buck. I have no idea if this is true for the majority of people. It is true for me. Now, if I just see pay what you want, I don't know that I'm likely to. I don't know if I'm as likely to do that. Um, I feel like I'm more likely just to grab it and just go. And small sample sizes, but I feel like it's borne out when well, it's hard to know. See, the other thing, it's hard to know, right? Because if you put a number on it, if I say I guess what I should probably do is I should probably do the next one and put a whole bunch of community copies. Like there's 100. Put 100 community copies up against one that's pay what you want and check it out. I don't, unfortunately, I should run some kind of experiment. I have a feeling that more people are willing to just grab, cut and run with the pay what you want. Than people are with, and it's not like it's not like oh my gosh, but I think it just comes down to when I'm looking at how I would like to structure things, I feel like the community copy aspect, what it does is I think it presents to people that, hey, you've done something that is worth something. I think sometimes they pay what you want, just and the weird economics of how gaming stuff. I mean, obviously we're looking at Shadow Dark there, where the Western Reaches has gone over $1 million on Kickstarter, but then with other things, people don't want to pay for anything. So I don't know what the heck to make of any of this, the weird economics. But I feel like if you put a value on it and say, here's some community copies, it makes it feel like there's greater value to the thing than if you just throw pay what you want. And I think people treat it a little bit differently. I know I do. I think I do. I think as I'm looking at, I do. And like I said, I'm curious. I'm curious how other folks think. So let me know in the chat if you want. Let me know in vote in the poll on YouTube, which I also posted to social media. I guess now I just noticed this as I was posting that poll this morning that now you can actually, there's a URL you can actually share, which I feel like in the past when I went to share something from the YouTube community tab, which is another thing that made it kind of wonky, is there wasn't really a URL for it. So they've done something, I think. But let me know. I mean, I'm not, it's not gonna totally just be the decision of the majority in terms of what I do. I think I'm leaning towards maybe just making more community copies available and doing that. Because like I said, I'm not putting up things like I'm putting a lot of effort into it. I mean, a lot of the effort you guys see in the streams and whatnot, and then I lay it out and I try to do stuff. So I don't feel like it's worthless or has no value. And I think with the pay what you want, I don't think that people necessarily, not always, I'm making broad statements, but I can see the numbers. I can see the numbers on drive-through when I put up to the Manor Born on drive-through, pay what you want. I think I have 70 or 80 downloads and only one person dropped anything on it. And I think they put $1 on it. And I'm not expecting really nothing that's one page. I don't think I can't really, I wouldn't be able to justify it more than $1. I mean, it's a page, but it's just interesting. It's interesting. So enough about that. Check out the poll. Let me know what you think. Give me some comments. Don't just vote on the poll. Let me know. I'd rather, if you're going to do one thing, I'd rather you take 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 30 seconds and tell me something than vote, because the vote without the telling me something doesn't tell me much. So there's that. Okay, let's get into the, now that I spent half the stream blathering on about that. Appreciate you hanging in there for that. Let's look at some things here. So we got a beginner's guide to hex flowers. That might be fun. Is it a link? Is it a link? Is it an article? Okay, so this is going to Substack. Let's check out the Substack. I will put a link to this in the chat, and I'll zoom in here. Hey, Frederick, you don't have to check it. I mean, I'm not trying to send people to the drive-through. Here's another thing before I just get too far into it. If you have a creator that stuff you like, or just in general, this is another kind of weird thing, and there are solutions to it. But all right, so where we're going, beginner's guide to hex flowers. But I've actually been meaning to mention this too, and I haven't really found a space to do it. Maybe I'll do a little short or a video on it because I don't think it's unimportant. So drive-through is sort of the 800-pound gorilla, right, in the digital tabletop role-playing space. Unless you're a huge publisher and you have your own storefront, but even then, I think almost everybody will put stuff on drive-through just because drive-through just gets so many eyeballs to it. Okay, drive-through is not a good deal as a creator, and it may be slightly more good so when you sign up to be a creator on drive-through, you have a couple of options you can do. Some things you can, and one of the one that's really the only thing that matters for our purposes today is that you can say, I will exclusively sell through drive-through. If you check that option, you get a slightly higher percentage return. Terrence mentioned that print prices are going up. Yeah, but this is actually, that actually is totally separate from that. But yes, print prices are going up. But just in general, forgetting print, just looking at digital, okay? I don't remember what the numbers are, but I can tell you this. I think, and I should have had a little celebratory thing. I think last month in February, I think I actually sold over $100 on drive-through. So yay! I'm not going to reach that milestone this month. I don't think, unless I throw some things out there or things just heat up for me on in the last 10 days. I'm not gonna get anywhere close to that number on drive-through this month. But so if I look at my gross is $100 or so, my net from drive-through is like $60 something or so. They take out a big chunk, and of course I'm not exclusive, but I don't know who would. It makes no sense to be. I can't imagine why you'd want to sign the thing to be exclusive. It doesn't make any sense. It then freezes you out of doing Itch or Lulu or anything else. It freezes you out of having your own storefront anywhere. It's just like you've got to go through drive-through, or just, I guess, close your account and start over. And then I can't imagine anybody. I think if you're just somebody who, okay, maybe you have no future plans, or you just whatever, then maybe you might look and say, well, I'm only going to do a drive-through and only this, so then I will click it. Frederick says Lulu's viable. Yeah, it's viable, but it's not in the same ballpark as drive-through in terms of traffic. I don't think so. I don't know what viable it means, because I don't think you can just cut out drive-through and say, I'm just going to do Lulu. I mean, maybe you can if you have a big following and people who will go anywhere. Like, if Kelsey Dion wanted to take Shadow Dark and say, you know what, I'm going off a drive-through, I'm going to go to Lulu, she could do it and be fine. You just can't. I've talked to people too. When I was starting to get serious into putting more stuff out there, I talked to some folks about it, and you just can't ignore. You can't just really drop off of drive-through. I mean, you can, but you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot a bit. So Terrence asked what the Itch cut. Itch is cut. I don't remember. I think it's off of the transaction. I don't remember exactly what it is, but you can actually set it. They actually have open. They've done some like open revenue sharing or whatever they call it, where you can actually set the percentage that Itch takes. So you can, if you want to. I think you can even set it to 0. I mean, I have set it to the default. I haven't mucked around with that, but you can actually set it to whatever. So they're actually a little bit flexible on that. Drive-through is not. But you can't not. I just don't think you can really. I just don't think you really can, for the most part, just say no drive-through, no. But what I'm saying is, I guess ultimately is, if you're looking at buying something from a creator you like, okay, see if they've got it on Itch or maybe on their own storefront before you go to drive-through. Assuming you're okay, you hopefully maybe you have an account in it, whatever. If you're in more than one spot, and the reason is because whoever it is you're buying from will get a much better payout from Itch than from drive-through. So if you have a choice, assuming they don't have their own native storefront that they're running, go to Itch, do Itch before drive-through. And the reason why I said it before, that's kind of a funny thing, is that Itch doesn't have any kind of affiliate stuff. So people, and look, I do this too, because I do get a little bit of money off of it, and usually that money just goes back into drive-through, buying books and stuff. But drive-through's got affiliate links. So if from all the creators on YouTube, whatever, there's a whole ecosystem to kind of funnel people towards drive-through, because they share a bit of that on the side. So, oh, look, a whole bunch of people went and bought this thing on drive-through. So, okay, I get a couple of bucks, and usually those money sits in my account, and then I'll see something and I'll click and I'll send it. So it's probably, I don't know. And maybe some of the big folks that just gets tons of affiliate stuff through drive-through, maybe they're pulling in monies, but usually everything that on drive-through just goes back into me buying a book or two. And of course, it depends on the month and all that stuff, whether I have anything but like a few cents or so go in. Itch doesn't have anything like that. So there's no factor to really push creators, just, YouTubers, whatever, social media people, influencers, whatever, to I mean, obviously some things just they don't have it on drive-through. Like if you want, I think Wolves Upon the Coast, you got to go get it at Itch. It's not on drive-through. But, for most stuff, people are going to send you when they can to drive-through because they get that little kickback, right? But from the creator side, it's kind of funny. As the author side of it, it's like, well, go to Itch. If you're clicking on my drive-through links, like, yay, I'm going to get like 13 cents if you buy $10 worth of books. Yay. I mean, it adds up. So I'm not meaning to demean it because it does help. But at the same time, seeing it from the author side, it's like, oh, that it hurts, but you can't ignore it. Anyway, I didn't mean to get sidetracked yet again. And Frederick, sorry, you're waiting a month for a book. I had something printed that I actually need to look at soon. And it didn't seem to take that long, but maybe I got lucky. Maybe you got unlucky. Where is it? I can flash it up on the screen or show it. Seemed to come out pretty well. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere down here. Oh, no, here it is. From Gus L. Ooh. Tomb Robbers of the Crystal Frontier. And it's a nice looking book. Looks good. No complaints. Drive-through, print on demand. I don't remember how long it took for it to get here. I want to say it probably took a couple of weeks. It wasn't like it was like super fast, but it came before I was starting to wonder where it was. So that's good. Okay. We're done with this right now. Unless you have questions. I'm fine to, as usual, I'm fine to talk about whatever. But I kind of have a pretty, I got a hard stop in probably a half an hour at most because I'm going to the movies. Gonna go see, what is it, Black Box? Is that what it's called? Some Soderbergh spy thriller movie this evening. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, a beginner's guide. Frederick says Amazon's the 100-ton gorilla. Yeah, but that's a whole other thing. I'm talking about in our niche. Yes, Amazon is there, but I feel like in terms of tabletop role playing games, I yes, they are there, but I'm not worried about them. I mean, that's a whole other thing. I think that the community marketplace revolves around drive-through, I would think, right? I mean, I don't know many people who send people. I mean, there's the stuff like the Neverland and those things that are kind of Amazon based, that where people are buying the books. But for the most part, we know when we're talking about sending people to different marketplaces, it is almost always drive-through or Itch. So yeah, Amazon is Amazon, but not concerned about that. Hey, Ian. Frederick says OSR has been creeping to Amazon. Well, I mean, people will throw their books onto Amazon if they have them, but I feel like that's more for print books, which I don't buy. Most of the print books I buy are used vintage books. I am mostly getting digital stuff for new, unless somebody's sending it to me, in which case I usually will ask for a physical one because I enjoy reading that better if I'm using it myself. Physically, if I'm just kind of looking at it to look at it, I'm not going to go grab a physical version unless it's something I really want. Like I don't know, it's got to be kind of more special, I guess, at this point. All right, so we're looking at a beginner's guide to hex flowers, posted by Gnome Stones, subtitled "Using Positional Charts to Simulate Weather Patterns and More." A hex flower is a positional chart laid out on a hexagonal spatial grid. The concept was originally developed by the developer Goblin's Henchman. Did they originally? I mean, I guess they do a lot with it, but I don't know that I would say they originated it, but I don't know. I've been using hex flowers in my campaigns for a few years now, and it's become one of my favorite aspects of running tabletop role-playing games. They look great on the table and attract players like bees. I've just completed my 4 seasons hex flowers, and I'm excited to share them with you for use at your table. These hex flowers are perfect for simulating day-to-day weather in your fantasy world. So here we go. We've got, I'm not sure what that is. Is that just a blank? And then you can see, these are cool. I haven't really seen this as much. Most of the hex flowers all of them I've seen are all been things. I mean, granted, I guess you could print them out, but I don't usually see them in their print incarnations. I just see them as blog posts with images of or diagrams of hex flowers. So that's cool to see someone actually physically putting them. And yeah, those would look nice at the table and be. I could see how they would be attention grabbing. We have some other ones. So let's see. Spring. Oh, so okay. So they're seasonal. So we have spring, summer, fall, winter. Why is winter? It's I don't know. I just the color wise, I would have thought that. I don't think of red as I guess Christmas, but it doesn't seem wintry to me. But all right, I think that's right because we have snow. Or is this snow? Or is this maybe this is fall and this is winter? Hold on a minute. Oh yeah, this must be winter. This is fall. So I guess that's that fall color. Summer somehow is blue. Well, that's fine. Blue skies, I guess. All right, so it's rather than going around, it's or wait, what's that? This has got to be spring. All right. How to use. Pick a token, place it on the center hex. The token can be a miniature game piece. Online, you can use a picture editor to draw a dot over the hex. Roll 2 6-sided dice, add them together to determine the outcome, and move the token from the center hex in the direction indicated by the key. Where is the key? I don't know. I guess we'll see. The token is now in a new hex, indicating a new type of weather. At this point, your usage of the hex flower will change depending on your goals. Some options are detailed below. The type of weather indicated by the token is the weather for the day. Roll again later to determine tomorrow's weather. Repeat as necessary. B, or the next option, is to simulate months of weather patterns. Roll once for each day. Record the result before rolling again. The token will generally shift down and to the left due to the bell curve shape distribution of outcomes. Next could be to pick one type of weather in somewhat random fashion. Start in the middle hex and roll 2d6 at least thrice, moving the token each time. It's also possible to roll multiple times within one day to reflect shifting or unstable weather patterns. If the die roll indicates that the token should move off the hex flower, the token then wraps around to the hex on the opposite side. That is in line with the token's movement. For example, when starting in hex O, a 2 goes to S, a 4 goes to A, and then a 6 goes to E. Where are we seeing that? Okay. So I guess maybe I almost feel like they should put the pictures above that so we can get it. But I see. So here's our 2d6. So they're using 2d6 so they can get that. It's not a bell curve, but it's approaching a bell curve. I forget the name of it because I asked somebody what the distribution was, and it has a hump. But technically, I'll do this for all the dice people out there. Technically, 2d6 is not a bell curve. I repeat, it is not a bell curve, but it does have a sort of curved distribution. In any case, 12 is due north. 10 to 11 is north. What would they be? Northwest. 2 to 3 is northeast. 4 to 5 is southeast. 6 to 7 is south. 8 to 9 is southwest. And then we also have, I'm not sure what the A, B, C, Ds, I guess is just for kind of labeling. So if you start off in hex O and you were to get wrapped around, you would end up at A. That makes sense. You'd pop off there and boop, you'd end up there. Terrence calls it a lump curve. And I forget. Somebody told me, and I just forget. But it's not a bell curve, just technically speaking. I like to point that out to demonstrate my intelligence in something that I really don't know very much about. And I can lord it over those who have done, have committed that error. Okay, so here are. Oh, I see. So they have some. I see. So you kind of have another kind of hex with the lettering. I don't know. I guess it's interesting that they sort of had the lettering offset from the hexes. I'm not sure why, but okay. So you can roll that and get some factors for pollen, hot, wild weather, or is this? Oh, maybe it's the same as here. It's just I think this is what it looks like pictographically, and this is what the letter. I see. That's kind of a cool thing to do, just for a reader like me, because you don't have to try to figure out what all these images mean. They have it here. Okay, that's cool. And that's all. Hope you find good use at your table. All right, I thought they were going to go into more how to do it in general. Another thing, when we looked at that, so one of the things that I found with the hex flowers, and this is why, is that there's not a clean way to get to this center. It's one thing if you're doing kind of a walk, where you're starting here and then you sort of walk along. But when you're trying to get a random, if you're using this inner hex flower, how do you get that center? Because here you have 6. Oh, this is great. So if you're in the center and you just want to move out, you can use, they're using 2d6 because they want to control a little bit, or at least mitigate where you're moving to, which is cool. But you could also just do 1d6 and you just get one of the outer ones, but you can never get the inner one. So it's fine if you have the marker that's here, and I don't know what that marker would mean in terms of actual weather. It could just be as it was. So if it's sunny and you hit here, it's just still sunny. If it's cloudy, you hit there and you come back, it's still cloudy, but you can't do that. You can start finagling things, but then you have to add extra dice, add extra mechanics or something to figure out how you could get all 7 options to pop in. And that's why I ended up for the hex thing going with a more squared off grid, because then you can actually get 6 by 6. And so you can roll 2d6 and get any value in there, as opposed to rolling some die and having to figure out how the heck you get to the center. It may not matter for this kind of thing because presumably your pawn, you could actually take out and have it just be a hole in the middle and just start on one of these, and then you're just walking around and then you just go across the middle. That might even be the better way to do it. It's just that doesn't work for hex maps, but it works for this kind of thing where you can go, yeah, just this doesn't exist. Just go right across. I might have to check that out. It might actually be a good thing because I've always, it might be a really good way to mitigate the center square. The old Jim J. Bullock Hollywood square is center square, except it's a hex. All right, cool. I always wonder, one of the things I always wonder is, besides the aesthetics, look, I like hexes, and I think I like hex flowers. I think they look nice, but I'd really like more. Is it all just the aesthetics, I guess, is what I'm wondering. Because, I'd like to know, well, what is this really giving you that some other method, say using squares and just doing it grid, or just doing it as a table? Yes, this does look nice, and you can't plunk out a table. You could use squares, something else, but is it just the aesthetics? Especially for the folks who are using hex flowers and they're not. This is cool because I could really see it like at Bandit Keep, Daniel's game that I play in, though we didn't play today because he's enjoying himself or getting ready to enjoy himself at Gary Con, and I'm not. It's nice and visual. So you're on your at your table, and I presumably if you're playing in a VTT, you could also do this. And okay, you put it down the table and put your pawn on it and move around. That's really nice and visual. But if I'm just doing it myself and I don't have it physically printed out, I sometimes find that people will just jam all this stuff into hex flowers. And I'm like, well, it might even be simpler and easier to the math and things become clearer if you don't use a hex flower. But people love their hex flowers. Ian says tables don't have memory. Hex flowers have a new set of probabilities based on your starting point. That's true if you're using straight up, but you could also. It's not in. That's only true, Ian, because we generally roll in the tables and then forget. But all you have to do is remember your last position, and you could do the same thing. You could have an initial roll on a table and then go up and down. We were talking yesterday about reaction rolls and doing something like, and you move up one. You move down one, right? It's the same thing. Your thing is hostile, but now I've got this thing that just adjusts where you are on the table. Shadow Dark does that with theirs, right? Where you start off on a table and it'll say, move up one rank, move down one rank. It's the same thing. So, yes, if you're using your tables in a fire forget kind of manner, then that is absolutely correct. But you don't have to do that. You can absolutely start off with some reference point on a table. Ian says the hex flowers can move in 6 directions, table instead of 2. Well, technically, tables would be in 4 directions, and you could probably have 6 if you did the diagonals. So again, we don't tend to do that, but all those things are possible. It's a grid. It's just set. If you just put squares in here instead of grid, and then say you have diagonals, you could do the same thing. We don't do it. We don't tend to do it. We do it with movement, and people obviously know because we'll do diagonals when you're in the dungeon and you're doing 5-foot squares. So move we do it. We just don't do it for this. But I think it's because maybe the grid isn't as appealing aesthetically as the flower is. But I'm saying is there's not much really stopping you from doing the same kind of thing. And you could even make an argument that you could have more, because with a square, if you follow the diagonals kind of thing, I don't know, it works it would work fine. You just use maybe what, a D8 instead of a D6 if you want to, and go run around the edges of the square. I'll say I'm looking at my counter earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, yeah, it'll be 9. So maybe you could use a. Actually, it almost works better because you could use a 10-sided die and you actually get the center. Blam, blam, blam. So, and I'm not saying everyone thinks it's just interesting. I just find it interesting because it's I feel like the Hex Flower has sort of blinded us to other options that are just as good, and sometimes I think actually a little bit just cleaner or just easier to understand than the Hex Flower. But as someone who's named their channel Hexed Press, I'm not gonna argue with people. Embrace the hex, but I do wonder sometimes. Okay, that was cool. Das was cool. Now let's see something else. OSR games that have good systems for spending gold. More prompts challenges like Hexcrawl 25 or Dungeon 25. How would you run Atlantis? Atlantis. Are we seeing a chainmail resurgence in the OSR? I don't know. Let's see, OSR blog roll. All right, we can go to the OSR blog roll. The Hex Creeping Vine. Is there a Hex Creeping Vine, or are you just talking about? Okay, the revived. Oh, I think I know. Okay, so we have people are posting in here. Tome, yeah, I don't care about that. I mean, not that I don't care about the Tome of World Building and Nomicon, but I'm not. I don't need the news. Oh, that's it. There's not that much. Oh, this might be an interesting one because it is definitely maybe a bit. What's the word I'm looking for? Contrarian. So this is from the Methods and Madness blog. I want less. No, I hear you, Terrence. And I mean, there's lots of cool things. Like, I'm not trying to say like you shouldn't use, you shouldn't use anything new. I'm just merely pointing out that hex flowers seem to have captured people's attention in a way that other methods and shapes don't. But you could, they just don't. And I don't know that there's a reason that just because hexes are hexes. It just seems to me that people like it. I mean, it is nice. The hex flower is nice. Just a block, a grid, just isn't as nice. I mean, it just isn't as aesthetic. The aesthetics, it does matter. And I like hexes. It's just interesting to me. I should play around with doing a cube, not a cube, but like a 3x3 square, because with a 3x3 square, you can actually access the center square. And the center square, if you use the diagonals as well as the planes, so I guess the vertices on the corners and the planes, you can actually get to, instead of 6, you can get to 9, but then 9 plus the center gives you 10. So in some ways, when using a platonic die, that's actually you could argue it's a better shape. And if you wanted to, you could turn it into a diamond, shine like a diamond, and then you could, might have to play around with that as another option. And it wouldn't be for hex maps and things like, but I certainly think, I mean, I just like hexes for hex maps. I guess we would call them grid maps or square maps. But, for other things, it might be just as well. All right, so this is titled I Want Less. Posted this week, this past Tuesday, March 18th. I posted the link in the chat if you want to follow along. I want less. Most of my time playing and reading RPGs has been ruled by the undisciplined pursuit of more. I played several RPGs and took pride in trying new ones. I favored quote-unquote universal systems where I could create endlessly detailed PCs and do anything I wanted. I also collected monster manuals for my D&D-ish needs. This process has been somewhat useful in helping me discover my tastes and needs. However, there has also been much waste. I read only a fraction of the RPGs I buy and play an even smaller fraction of the RPGs I read. Nowadays, I'm embracing the quote-unquote disciplined pursuit of less. In other words, I want less. Fewer monsters, fewer spells, fewer magic items, fewer stats, and simpler systems. This partly reflects my appreciation for minimalism, but it goes beyond that. I believe that having fewer elements makes each one more important and meaningful. While having a multitude of monsters is fun, each monster manual contains more creatures than entire worlds like Middle-earth. Barsoom, Lankmar, or the Hyborian Age, not to mention most horror and sci-fi settings. It becomes virtually impossible for PCs to understand each individual monster with any depth. Take dragons, for example. The dragons of mythology and literature are often unique individuals like Smaug, Fafnir, Tiamat, Drogon. Each is distinct and memorable, but the second edition Monster Manual, my favorite, has about more than a dozen dragon types. If a D&D party sees Smaug, it's just another red dragon. They don't even need to interact to know that he is chaotic since he is red, but this is another issue. And here we have a bracketed, I guess an aside, or extended parenthetical. Another thing I've been considering is how adding more monsters to a game doesn't make it any different from quote-unquote standard D&D, but replacing existing monsters creates a completely new kind of setting. Take Curse of Strahd, for example. It includes few quote-unquote demi-humans, and even the elves are distinct from the familiar elves we're used to. This seems to hold true for most of my favorite settings and modules, and I think I might never run an adventure containing orcs again. Magic items are the same. Excalibur or Stormbringer are memorable, and so is Sting. In D&D, a first-level party often has dozens of magic items. First-level party? That might be pushing it a bit, but yeah, you do end up with a bunch. Eventually, they discard some of them as they reach higher levels. This abundance devalues magic items and magic in general. I feel the same way about rules. I've run a few 5e campaigns. 5e is a more quote-unquote complete game than BX. However, it requires 10 times the page count to achieve this. So I've been asking myself, is 5e 10 times more complete than BX? And the answer is no. Same goes for AD&D. And here we have another parenthetical. Sure, I could use a one-page RPG. In the end, this ultimately comes down to a matter of taste. Spell selection has also been a headache, leading to imbalance and analysis paralysis. I like customizing characters, but I don't need dozens of classes and races. I really enjoy the simplicity of being able to say the bandit leader is a fighter 5 and leave it at that. When you have fewer elements, you can connect them more meaningfully. For example, elves resist ghouls. The undead are raised by demons. All aberrations come from other dimensions, while monsters are created by mages, etc. And to be honest, this would make way more likely that my players would even remember most of this stuff. In short, many of my current issues with D&D could be solved by just having less. I think that's probably true. And I think that's a nice way of looking at it. That's not that curmudgeonly, like, why do you need to be a half tabaxi, quarter, whatever kind of guy? Like, yes, I think things do tend to be more special and interesting, but it also comes down to that sort of, why are we playing the game? Like, why are you playing the game? Why do you play D&D? You know, as a player, why do you play? Is it just to collect stuff, or is it to have fun adventures, or why is it? And I think when you answer those, whatever your answers are to those questions will help tune what you need and how much of it you need. If you're playing a game, and I'm going to use an older term here that used to be in vogue, they call it Monty Hall, where you're just full of stuff. You're just collecting stuff. It was named after Monty Hall, I think it's probably passed at this point, who had what was his game show? Why am I spacing that? Was it Let's Make a Deal? I think was it. And it was a fun game, but it was all about winning prizes. And, you know, because his name was Hall, Hall, it was a fun, whoever came up with this brilliant, fun play on words to call it Monty Hall, right? Haul, for hauling away a ton of loot. So that kind of became at least in the 80s, when I would read in magazines, the few times I would get a dragon or something, or you hear about Monty Hall, like, oh, it's a Monty Hall campaign, right? You're just getting lots and lots of stuff. And if that's your fun, hey man, no one's, there's tons of it. But I absolutely do agree that it doesn't necessarily lead to better. I think so many people just come in, and you see it all the time. And I've talked about it at length when it just drives me nuts. People just walk in, I got a new game. Now give me stuff. Now give me more stuff to make it cooler or better or whatever. It's like, how about just play the game? Or, you get that thing in 5e where if you try to make the game, you try to narrow the game a bit, or do some of this, cutting away at it, people just up in arms. I can't believe they're not giving me everything that's in these books and then some. So, it's not everyone's going to agree, but I'm there. I give you something easy, and I like making the things you have more different. And I'm totally on board with kind of just trying something new, just getting away from some of the things that we've just been with for decades. I'd be fine with. I mean, I've done it before. We're like, yeah, I'm not going to have orcs. I'm not going to have orcs and elves and dwarves in this game. I don't want it. We've got enough. We can do that anytime we want. We've done that 1.5 million times. Let's do something else. Brian Smith, hey Brian, says, we talking favorite shapes. Let's talk Tori or Tauruses. Brian also says, Mary Kondo, your tabletop life. Yep, that's right. And also says they're glad they solved their problem themselves. I don't know if they solved it. I'm not. It they didn't say that they got rid of all their stuff. They just said that they're in search of less. Like I said, I can appreciate that. I'm absolutely down with that. Pauper Knight, hey Pauper Knight, said that no encumbrance tracking. I am currently carrying 12 swords, wearing 7 magical rings, and a magical sword. I've already trivialized, as well as these 30,000 gold pieces that I can't actually lift. Yes, I mean there's that too. But I think even the broader point is, even if you had encumbrance stuff, you do just end up with a crap load of magic items where you're going like, I mean, even in, and it's weird because like in the OD&D game that I play in, some stuff as a party, we don't have a ton of magic items, but there's some things we definitely have gotten more of. So at one point we just had extra +1 plate mails hanging around. It was like, oh, anyone need a +1 plate mail? And then of course other things like we don't, like one of the wizards pour a little mead out for them, lost their ring of protection. And that seems to be an item that I haven't checked over the treasure list, but maybe it just doesn't come up very much. So that was a keenly felt loss. But on other things like, oh, I got doubles, I got triples of magic shields, like we could eat off of a magic shield kind of thing. So, but just the fact you do end up with a lot of magic items, and it does make them less. But part of it also is a little bit unfair. I mean, it's fair and unfair, right? When you look at a Conan story, how many magic items does Conan have? Probably none. I don't think that if he's ever had, and someone will play, oh no, in this story he had one. Okay, for the most part, Conan, you see me catch him in the moment. He's barely even, it's like he's more often than not, he's not even wearing armor. He's got a blade. Oftentimes it's taken away from him because he's captured, he's running away, he's just all doing stuff with whatever he has available, wearing whatever he can wear and doing the same thing. Far from the Grey Mouser, I don't remember. There probably are some where they end up with some kind of magic item, but usually those stories are like you find some kind of magic item and there's something horribly wrong with it, and usually you have to get rid of it, or or if it's like the barrel blades, it's special, but it has a very specific purpose, right? When Mary stabs the Witch King with the barrel blade, that's it. The barrel blade is done. Sting is maybe is really, other than I guess the one ring, hanging around until the end, and really getting a lot of use. I mean, Tolkien also has that thing, right? You could, depending on how you look at magic, elven cloaks and lembas bread and mithril. It's not like there's none, but I think that's where you could end up in Tolkien forums arguing with people who are going to tell you, no, that's not magic. That's just craft. It's just only the elves can do it. Nobody else can, but it's not actually magic. But in D&D terms, cloaks of Elvenkind are magic. Sting would definitely be magic. Mithril, I guess, is not magic. I feel like it probably should be, just because of how it. I mean, in the, he really, it doesn't matter. I mean, at a certain point with the mithril, it's like it's not about the material strength. It's about the fact that he took that shot from that cave troll, and it just didn't break every bone in his. I mean, the thing is, like, you could be wearing chainmail. Your average guy in some average chainmail is he gets hit with a giant ogre with a club. The chainmail is not necessarily going to shatter into a billion pieces. It's not going to break the chainmail. It's going to break everything beneath the chainmail. The chainmail is just going to, it's flexible. It's just going to go, and then all that force, or most of that force, is just going to go into you. But obviously mithril doesn't work by those rules, and it's never really clear why, other than the fact that it's mithril. I would probably say mithril. Pauper says, if you consider less weight and no crit magical. I don't think it's just no crit, though, Pauper. I'm Pauper Knight. I mean, he withstands, he takes way more damage than he should have. If I were to try to put it in D&D terms, he takes whatever. He's got, 1d6 hit points, and he probably takes, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to look it up in BX what a troll does, because who knows, but I think the fact, I mean, and even they all kind of remark on it, it's not even just that it's light. It's the fact that it was able to withstand and protect him. Not that the chainmail survived the impact, but Frodo survived the impact inside of the chainmail, which doesn't really make much sense physically, because it can't stop it. Like if you were to poke Frodo, presumably the mithril would bend because it's chains. So, I don't know how you get from that to doing what it did if it's just that the material is strong and light. There seems to be something else going on. But I'm not going to dig up the passage right now and read it. Might be interesting to do that at some point, but that's kind of what I'm referring to, because it's the what it does, where he basically comes out pretty much unscathed from that hit. It's not just that it's light. Brian says, "What about a mithril sword versus mithril armor?" Yeah, I don't know if they do that. I mean, maybe it's just not a material that lends itself to sword making. Though, I guess we don't know what Sting is made of. So, is it what's in Sting that makes it glow? I don't know, but that feels like it's pretty magical too, right? There's some cool stuff to delve into, because I like this idea that you have an intent. Like the Sting was made with the intent of fighting in the Goblin Wars, and so it's like that intent infused into the blade. And maybe you look at the nature of the smith and of elves themselves, and it's a defensive thing, whereas maybe orcs, or say the Witch King and all, so then in the inverse, you've got Morgul blades that the Witch King makes, and the Witch King infusing that with this kind of murderous intent gives it this sort of venomous, poisonous, but clearly kind of magically poisonous, sort of life-sapping effect. And I really think there's some cool stuff in there that probably doesn't get explored enough in magic items generally and how they work. Brian says Sting is obviously imbued with Mountain Dew Baja Blast. Or is Mountain Dew Baja Blast infused with Sting? Is someone going to go into the Mountain Dew factory and look in the bottom of the Baja Blast vat and find a magic sword at the bottom whose glow is being absorbed? Terrence says it glows when tacos are near. Nice. All right, I think I got maybe one or two more. We'll see how big we get. If anyone sees one that they like, I'm happy to look. I've got no particular horse in the race. Monster Mounted Head. No, what are you grabbing? Yeah, price hike. We mentioned the drive-through print on demand price hike. So grab something when you can. We'll see. Hex Crawling by Eco Watcher. Hex Crawling, looking for help. So I've attempted one hex crawl before, Kingmaker, and it sort of died of a death, mainly because it was 5e. I've restarted a new OSR campaign and decided to use Wolves Upon the Coast framework. I still struggle with how to generate fun, interesting, and interactive hexes on the fly while at the table. Does anyone have any suggestions? How much time have you got, Eco Watcher? More than I do. All right, so we've got. I don't suppose anyone's going to reference any of my stuff. No. I don't get to puff up my ego with finding a reference to myself in this list. That's fine. Okay, so how to generate fun, interesting, interactive hexes. Well, context is kind of key with these things, and I'm not sure what the context is for this. And what I mean by that is, if we can go look at, I can go pull up Wolves on the Coast. I'll go grab it now, actually. Because I guess I'll just, let me see if I can get it out. Where I got to remember where I stuck it. Oh yeah, it's in a folder called Wolves. That makes sense. Let's see, Albarn. Okay. Oh yeah, but I gotta. All right, so and I need the map. That's the map. And there's the map. Okay. And I will, there's Alban's up here. Oh, let's see. Where's 7? So the one thing with this is it's kind of, where are we starting? We're starting, now it's 20. Where's 7? That's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I think when we looked at wolves before, and I've done some counting, just using some sort of a few of the sub-regions here as references. They tend to do about, I don't know, 33% something in them, 33% empty, and then, sorry, there's like some kind of mix of stuff that's kind of interconnected versus stuff that's just kind of in there. And then, I think you're looking at this. So if we look at 4.2, it's probably a third of the hexes are keyed, maybe a little bit less. I don't know. This is kind of a larger region. Now, the original question, if we go back to the question, was, okay, I struggle with how to generate fun, interesting, and interactive hexes on the fly. So what I was saying about the context, okay, is some of the hexes in Wolves are kind of one. So here you have, I guess if we're doing this, I guess sort of what I would think of maybe Irish, we maybe call this Civinus, the BH, like a Civinus. Ancient apple trees crowd the Isle of Civinus, sleek, glossy birds and fish eat the ever-ripe fruit. Any staying the night here and eating the fruit find themselves fully healed. If transported off the island, the fruit is poison, killing those unable to make a physique save, right? So is that, well, one, does that qualify as being, like, if you're going to say fun, interesting, interactive, how many of those does that, how many of those does that match? Okay, so interesting, I guess. Interactive, maybe the first couple times. I mean, I don't know, depending. Maybe fun, I guess. And I think the thing is like the context, I guess, what I'm sort of don't know is, okay, not every hex has to be some kind of like you loop-de-loop-de. It is totally fine to say you're, I don't know, in 10, wherever 10-6 is. You're in well, let's just, what is this? You're in 905 and you're going to 1104. You don't have, it doesn't have to be anything fun and exciting in this hex. You're on the road, you just get there. It's fine. Not everything has to be fun, exciting, interactive. Presumably Wolves on the Coast, you're getting you're starting off wherever, you're on your boat and you land somewhere and you're trying to figure out kind of what needs doing or what's interesting around. Then you're making your boasts. I mean, I haven't played Wolves, so I'm kind of guessing. We've read the rules here on the channel, and we've obviously looked at the hex crawl a few times. But I imagine if we were to look at what I don't know if a session or just kind of a setup for adventuring in Wolves is you got your boat, you land somewhere, you make contact with local folk, or or depending on where you land, maybe you run right into some kind of critter. You use remember, because you're boasting to raise your levels, and you boast before you do the thing. So you boast and then you do the thing you boast of, is kind of how it works. So you're finding something, you're talking to people, you're making your boasts, you're going off and doing that stuff. And given that it's a kind of an OSR-ish kind of game, we want to keep in mind that they're going to be sort of setting their objectives. So let's just say, for example, they're in 11.04, wherever this place is, and they learn of whatever this creature is in 10.03, and they don't know exactly where it is. Maybe they've heard rumors. I don't know. I mean, probably more likely whatever they're looking for is maybe right in the next text. But let's just say they're looking up here somewhere. Something's been going on up here. I forget what this is. Is this like I don't remember what the symbol means. In any case, they're like, oh, we got to figure it out. That's their objective. And so they're going to be, where's my, I don't have my, shoot. I have my overlay piece here. Hold on a minute. So they're going to be operating around there, mucking about, trying to find it. And I'm just getting my thing so I can annotate here. Hold on one second. Things I should have done before I got started. Okay, here we go. All right, so they're here. Let's just say they're trying to get to this guy up here. So they're going to be, maybe they know vaguely it's to the northwest, somewhere to the north or northwest. So they're going to be, looking around, hopefully finding this guy here. X marks the spot. Okay. If you fill all this stuff. You just start jamming things all up in here. You fill everything up. It's just, you're making it extremely difficult for them to kind of get stuff done. Potentially, obviously, it depends on your encounter, depends on whatever. But you're putting these things in fun, interactive, what were the thing, interesting, but what you're sort of doing is you're muddying the waters. You're mucking things up. They want to get over here, and they having a hard time because they can't walk 2 feet, can't walk a hex without running into something. And does whatever's in here, is that fun for them? Maybe not. Is this one? Maybe, but you're taking up their time. And by the way, resources. So now, whereas maybe they would have rolled, you're rolling your random encounters too, wandering creatures. So that's on top of that. So maybe you could probably, I would think you could get from here to here in a day. So that'd be 1 check. But now you're hitting this. You're hitting this. There's a wandering check also. You're hitting something else. Your resources are drained. So there's a chance your party kind of comes up here, and then they've done something like, nope, we got to come back to town to rest and repeat. You don't need to fill out everything. Brian just put it in the chat. Not everything needs to be fun and engaging. You've got fun and engaging stuff, right? You got stuff here. You've got this here. You got this here. You've got this over here. You've got all this stuff. And of course, it's fine to add stuff in, but just keep in mind that empty spaces are also good. They give you room. They give you room for things to happen. They give you breathing space. They make the geography give you that kind of, that feels like a large world. There's a lot going on there. So maybe wait until they knock something off the board and then have some kind of, I don't know, like a faction phase, have a wilderness phase where then maybe something new moves in over here. Now, when they knock this out, then maybe something moves in over here and then sets up, of course, more missions. You don't need to fill anything up. And I think that's a mistake that people run into. I got to make everything. I got to do everything. And it feels like a drag. And I got to go, but I'll just mention this. There was I want to say it was an Electric Bastion Land game they played in. And if you've heard the story before, it's because I've told it before. But I think it was a while ago. And we were tasked with, we were in the, I guess, I'm not, it's been a long time since I've looked at the setting. I'm not super familiar. I guess the name of the city is Bastion Land, or the city's Bastion, whatever. We're in the main city. And we were told, hey, we got to go to the sewers to take care of something that's happened in the sewers. You guys got to go down there and fix it. And we're like, great. I'm like, awesome. This is our deal. We're going to go down there. We're going to muck about with the sewers. All right, great. Well, what happened is the GM found there was some advice in the GM that they took about, I think it was make everything interesting, right? Make everything interesting. And they took it to heart. And they also took it to an extreme. And we had to walk some blocks, go through some stuff. And it was just an endless amount of little events and things that were popping up that we had to respond to. Oh, molasses is this truck of molasses is overturned in the street. There's a guard, a checkpoint. There's this thing. And each one of those on their own was fine. But I remember getting really frustrated because I think I was telling GMs like, hey, I don't know if it's the system or the setting or what's going on, but I just want to get to the sewers. I don't want to deal with checkpoints. I don't want to deal with overturned molasses trucks. I don't care. That's like with the premise was, let's go to the sewers and uncover some mystery. So can we just go to the sewers and do that and not and not just get bogged down with every block? There's a new obstacle or a new something we got to deal with. Hey, Jason, well, I'm about to sign off. So you're going to have to rewind the beginning and watch it, but it'll be worth it. I promise. Fingers crossed behind my back. Anyhow, thanks everyone for hanging out. I'm going to go see a movie. For those of you who are, I was going to say going to GaryCon, I presume it would already be there. I imagine all the cons start on Fridays now. So if you're a GaryCon, you're not listening or watching this anyway. So I know Daniel's not watching, but that's all right. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I will talk to you later.